Twilio Functions is a fantastic way to build a Twilio application, but it's not without its shortcomings. Because I write the code in the browser, I can't use my development environment that I'm used to, and it's a little harder to debug. Enter Twilio Run, an NPM-based tool written by Dominic Kundal that allows you to locally develop and debug your Twilio functions in the tools that you're used to. Let's see how it works. We'll start in the terminal by creating a directory to hold our project. I'll call it local Twilio functions. Change directories in there, and then create a new npm project running npm init-y. And then I'll use npm to install a dev dependency on Twilio Run. Next, we'll set up the directories we're going to need for our project. We are going to have an assets folder that'll hold assets that we would put inside of the Twilio runtime, like static images and HTML files, a functions folder to hold our JavaScript code, a .vs code folder for our settings for debug. Then we'll need a .env file, and inside of the .vs code folder, we'll have a launch.json that'll help us debug later. Let's open everything up inside of Visual Studio Code and just make sure the structure is correct. We've got our launch.json, we've got our assets and functions folders, and we've got our .env and our package.json that has Twilio Run specified as a dev dependency. Looks like we're good to go. So up under the functions folder, let's create a new file. We'll call it hello-world.js. Inside of here, we're just going to create the code that you would use inside of Twilio functions. So you're going to have exports.handler equals function. We're going to have access to a context, an event, and a callback parameter. And inside of here, we're just going to create some TWIML just like you would do inside of the Twilio console under runtime and functions. We'll do new twilio.twiml.messaging response, and we'll set the TWIML message to hello world and call back from our Twilio function, passing back the TWIML. Okay, up under assets, create hello.text. This is just a static text file, and inside of here, we'll say hello YouTube. Now, after saving both of those files, we can use npx to run Twilio Run, and that will start our local environment serving up both our hello world function and our hello.txt asset. So if we head to localhost port 3000 / hello-world, we should see the TWIML that we just coded into our hello world function, just like we would get if we were running inside of Twilio functions. Now, if I mistakenly try to head to hello.txt, it'll say it can't find a function of that name. I just forgot to put assets before hello.txt. So let's add that /assets / hello.txt. And this time we'll see hello YouTube pop up in the browser from that source. You'll see here that you get the status responses. I got the 404 on that hello.txt, but I got 200 OKs for my function and the assets directory. Awesome. Let's clear that out now and look at something different that we can do. We'll this time run npx twilio-run-ngrok. This is going to use ngrok to create a tunnel from localhost out to the public internet. This is great if you wanted to now test this inside of Twilio from your local environment. If I paste that URL into the browser, you'll see that it gets the TWIML as we expected from before. So that's a great use case for using ngrok. Also, if you're a paid subscriber of ngrok, you will potentially have a custom domain name. So you can also use that if you do npx twilio-run-ngrok and then specify the name of your subdomain. Mine's Brent. So now I have brent.ngrok.io URLs that my Twilio function code from this local environment will be served up using. Now that we have our local Twilio functions environment running, let's set up debugging. So what we're going to do now is run npx Twilio run --inspect. This will set up a debugger running on a WebSocket at port 9229, which we can now set up inside of Visual Studio Code. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, what you'll want to do now is go to that launch.json file that we had open earlier. And inside of here, you're going to set the version to 0.2.0, and then under configurations, just hit Control Space and start typing node and do this node.js attach. That'll fill in the rest of the code here for you, and then hit save. We've now set up a debugger configuration for VS Code for that 9229 port. So if you head under the debug section and make sure you have attach selected here, and then hit the play button, you're now in debug mode. So we can now head back over to our hello world.js and stick a breakpoint here on the TWIML message And if we go into the browser and trigger this URL once again, the localhost port 3000 hello world, we'll hit the breakpoint right here, and you can see that you can inspect all of the variables just like you would expect to do in any other application. If you're not a VS Code user, don't worry, we can also use the Chrome debugger using the Node.js dedicated debugger. Just click this Node.js Dev Tools, and over inside of here, what we're going to do is go to the File System tab and add our workspace folder inside of the Dev Tools. So I'll just select our local Twilio functions folder and hit allow at the prompt. And then we can dig into our folder, find the function we want to debug, open it up, and set a breakpoint just like we did over in VS Code. Head back into the browser and re-trigger this endpoint, and we'll hit the breakpoint just like we did over inside of VS Code. Earlier, we created a .env file, and that's for storing environment variables. Let's just create one here called planet. We'll set it equal to Mars. And if we head back over to our Hello World JS code, inside of the message, instead of saying Hello World, let's say Mars if the planet variable is set, and otherwise say world if it's not. So inside of a template string, we'll say hello, and then we'll substitute in here the context.planet. Context is what you would use inside of Twilio functions to access the environment variables that you've set inside of your functions configuration. So if that's not set, we'll also just return world inside of this string. So it's either going to say hello world or hello Mars, depending on whether that environment variable is set. So if we were to run npx twilio-run one more time, not specifying to load in the .env file, then if we head to localhost port 3000 hello world and run it, we'd expect to see hello world, and that's what we see in the TWIML. Instead, if we head back over and run npx twilio-run and then specify --env, it'll instead load environment variables from that .env file. And if we refresh over here, we'll see hello Mars instead. There's one more option for environment variables. For security reasons, your local environment does not get loaded inside of Twilio run. You can, however, force it to do so by running npx twilio-run and this time specify --load local env. This will load all of your local environment variables. And you can combine this with --env to load the ones from the .env file as well. The .env values will override the local values. Oh, one last thing. Typically, you have to restart Twilio run every time you make a change. If you run this with --live, this will enable a sort of live reloading so that if you make a change in your code, so we'll go back to hello world, if I change this and add some exclamation points and save the file, I don't need to reload Twilio run to make this work now. It'll just automatically happen inside of the browser once I hit refresh. This is not super performant, so it's not enabled by default, but if that's something you would like to have enabled, that's how you do it. For more information, check out the Twilio run package over on NPM, either from the link on the screen or down in the description below. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the subscribe button over on the left. If you want to watch another video, I picked one out just for you in the top right, and if you're looking for the code, there's a button in the bottom right for that. Until next time, I'm out of here.